Linnanmäki is the most popular theme park in the country of Finland. It opened its doors in 1950 and is located right in the heart of Helsinki. The best way I could describe this place is it feels like a very upscale carnival, but like the nice kind of carnival. Everything here is very classic. There's so much personality to this place. The name Linnanmäki means Castle Hill, so naturally the park is located on a hillside. Everything is centered around this water tower. Essentially what happened here is the city said, you can build a theme park here, but you can't tear down this water tower. So even if they want to remove it, it's protected, they can't. Not like it's currently operational or anything. Actually, the park made great use of it and they put an indoor roller coaster in it. So that's an awesome use of space. But that's like the park's centerpiece, if you will. Linnanmäki only takes up 19 acres of land. It does not take very long to do a full lap around this park. I think if I had to compare it to another theme park that I visited, I'd probably pick Bakken or Grønland. These are two other Scandinavian theme parks, one in Denmark, one in Sweden. They're similar in size as well as atmosphere, but actually I'd take Linnanmäki over both of those. I love what they did with this place. Everything is so well landscaped, and it's a good mix of attractions. We're looking at 8 roller coasters, 2 dark rides, some water rides, and tons of family attractions. And to make things more interesting, the park is more similar to Bakken than Grønland in the way that Linnanmäki is also free to enter. Anyone can just walk on in and check the place out. So naturally, if you want to do any of the rides or attractions, you'll probably want to get a wristband for the day, but let's say you just want to do one ride, you can get individual tickets. In my time in Helsinki, I actually visited Linnanmäki over the course of 3 different days, one of which was for literally less than an hour. I walked in, paid for one ride on Taiga, and then left. The other 2 days were for a much bigger time requirement, so naturally I had a wristband. But it's cool that they have that option. And to make things even more interesting, Linnanmäki is a not-for-profit theme park. The place is operated by the Children's Day Foundation, which is a charity organization. Any revenue the park makes goes towards child welfare. That's, of course, after expenses are taken out so they can, keep the place running. They collect millions of dollars that they donate every single year. There's very, very few theme parks that I can think of that are like that. So it really makes you appreciate Linnanmäki. I have that much more of a drive to come and support this place. So let's talk about what a visit to Linnanmäki looks like. First things first, I mentioned the park is located in Helsinki. It's just outside the city center and is looped in with public transit. It is really easy to get to. There's buses as well as trams. When you're walking up, the first attractions you're going to see are Oko, that's the Mauer Sky Loop, and then the brakeman operated wooden roller coaster. So this one here is pretty famous. It's the oldest operating coaster in the park, 1951, and there's a guy that stands on the back of the train controlling the speed. It's one of the only brakeman operated coasters in the world. I mentioned Bakken earlier. This ride is very similar to Rutschebanen, located at that park. Your ride experience will definitely vary depending on how light your brakeman is on the brakes. I did this ride a couple of times, and for the most part, I thought it was pretty tame, but there is one really good airtime pop towards the end. They'll totally catch you off guard. So that's one that you're not going to want to miss. Oko is arguably the scariest coaster here though, just because these sky loops are pretty intimidating rides. The way that they lift you up vertically and then hang you there upside down. But it is a clone of some of the others that you're probably familiar with. As you pass through your front entrance, everything is very colorful. That's absolutely a trend that you're going to notice as you're walking around the park. Everything is just very family oriented, so it's very inviting for kids. And after you pass through that, actually straight ahead, you're going to see a sea life. Linnanmäki shares a space with an indoor aquarium, but do note that that is a separate admission. As I mentioned, Linnanmäki is not very big. A lot of you are probably familiar with this park because of their Intamin multi-launch coaster Taiga. The entrance to that is actually really close to the front of the park. There's already a full separate review of this coaster on the channel. Please go check that out if you want to hear about that attraction. That is the ride of this park. It's the attraction that made us want to come visit, and it's the attraction that'll keep us coming back. But because there's already a whole separate video about it, I'm going to skip over it so I can talk about everything else. So right next to Taiga is one of the park's 2 dark rides. And this one here is one of your classic ghost trains. You hop in a small, intimate vehicle, go around some dark corners, you'll have some fun jump scares, very spooky props. It's actually a pretty long ride, very old-timey and classic. I much prefer this dark ride to the other one, which I'm going to get to a little later. Also nearby is another roller coaster called Kurnu. This is an Intamin Zackspin, actually the prototype Intamin Zackspin. Very short layout here, not a whole lot to it. In my opinion, it's actually a pretty pointless ride experience. It doesn't really do much at all. You might flip once, so definitely a one and done in my opinion. One attraction I highly recommend that's also next door is the Ferris wheel. This is one of the 3 ways that you can get good views around Linnanmäki. This in particular has the best views of taiga, so that's why I like it the best. But there's also an observation tower. This is not super popular anymore, which is sad because it's fun. Gives you a rotating view of the city and everything. But if you're looking for something a bit more thrilling, there's also a drop tower here. It is by MOZA, yes, the company that usually makes frog hoppers. You're probably familiar with their drop tower at Busch Gardens Williamsburg mock tower that just got torn down. This is the same style. It's very intimidating though, it's very tall. But same as with mock tower, it has some pretty crappy restraints that in my opinion ruin the ride experience, but you do get a little bit of air on the way down. So we'll continue our way around the park. A ride that shares the same color scheme as Taiga is located just a short walk away from that coaster. You'll drop down the hillside and see the entrance for Tuulareki. I probably mispronounced that, I am so sorry. It's a Mack Rides e-motion coaster, one of only 2 ever built and the only one still left standing. It's a piece of junk. There's a reason this is the only one like it. Basically, the whole concept is that the ride vehicle will kind of slant side to side as you're going around this layout, and it's just very janky. Like Kurnu, it's a one and done. The much better attraction is the mine train next door. This one is called Pikajuna, which doesn't sound right either. I probably mispronounced that too. I'm so sorry guys, I do not speak Finnish if it's not painfully obvious. Luckily I can pronounce Taiga, so we're good with that one. This is a Mack Rides powered coaster, does 3 laps around the layout. Very fun, super tame, but it uses the terrain well. And it has several moments when it's like gliding along these massive rocks on the side of this hill. You'll look over to the left and see how much of a drop off there is. Between the mine train, the e-motion coaster, and Taiga, there's just coaster track going everywhere. It's so visually pleasing. And the last main coaster that I'll talk about that's on this side of the park is their Mauer Spinner. This is a custom layout, doesn't feature any theming during the ride experience, but actually has a pretty cool queue. It tells an old story from Finnish culture. And like the other rides I mentioned, this one too is a pretty long ride experience. It's also located directly over the park's rapids, which is a really cool feature. You can see several moments here where the ride has a really unique support structure because that's to accommodate for that ride path. So at this point, you're towards the back side of the park. You'll see some various flat rides, some that you're definitely familiar with, others that are a bit more unique. And as I mentioned, Linnanmäki for the most part is a circle layout, so as you're just continuing around, you'll pretty much run into all the major attractions, though they do have some smaller pathways that split off. As I mentioned, they have an indoor coaster there. This is like Linnanmäki's Space Mountain. It opened in 2000, and it certainly feels that way. A lot of neon, like, cheaper theming, but it's fun, and honestly, I didn't even know about this ride before going in, so it was just a pleasant surprise that it existed at all. But that pretty much covers it as far as roller coasters go. I mentioned there's another dark ride here. Located in the back of the park is this clown ride that is so unbelievably creepy. It might just be the creepiest ride I've ever done. It is pure nightmare fuel. It's like a circus theme and it's supposed to be fun, but it's kind of whack. There's literally a scene where a guy is like cleaning up elephant poop. I don't know. Glad I did it for the memes, but I don't know if I want to ever subject myself to that again. But speaking of clowns, something that you might encounter here at Linnanmäki that I actually think is a lot of fun is they have some walk-around characters. I saw some clowns as well as some like street performers, people doing acrobatics and juggling stuff. I know at times they'll have a character walk around who's literally dressed like the taiga bird. Just another thing that makes this park so cool. In terms of food here at Linnanmäki, I did have a couple meals, and everything I had I liked. You'll find a lot of like burger and like classic theme park food places. There's this one like spacious indoor food court area by the Wood Coasters turnaround, and they sold, and I quote, badass burgers. Every single one of them had a different colored bun. It was like pretty patties. Up by Taiga, there was a sit-down place that we checked out that sold pizza and pasta and Indian food. The pasta we had was actually like delicious. I was a big fan of that. Last thing I'll mention before I'll end things out, as you've probably been able to tell from all this footage, I went during the fall season as opposed to the summer season. Linnanmäki, because it's so far north, does have a shorter operating season than some other parks. I think most people go during the summer just because that's the most pleasant weather. You also get really long hours. They'll be open till like 11 p.m. and it'll still be light out. However, I wasn't mad about going during Halloween time because that's when you can get night rides on Taiga, and that isn't possible during the summer. So in October, they have an event called the Carnival of Lights. During this time, things are a little bit different. There's a 15 euro entry fee, so it's not free to walk in. And that's just so that you can enjoy all the lights around the park. Everything is very festive, but all the main attractions stay open. I mean, the Rapids wasn't open, but all the roller coasters were. They also had a couple haunted attractions, which were fine. They were kind of fun. But overall, I just had a really awesome experience at this place. I really, really liked it. This was honestly one of my big bucket list theme parks to visit in Europe. Even aside from Taiga, the park was really, really cool. I was glad that I had more than one day here. Not necessarily saying that you have to spend more than one day here because, as I mentioned, in terms of land, the park is not very big at all. And because they have long hours, I think it is possible you could get everything done that you wanted to in a day. So you could very easily draw your stay out a bit so you can go check out some sites during the day. And then when you're all done, the park will probably still be open. You could go catch a couple rides. But I thoroughly enjoyed the vibe they had going here. Don't expect a theme park. While they certainly have some attractions that are themed, this absolutely is an amusement park. But the place was so well kept. Everything was clean. A lot of heart and soul in this place. And at times, it really did feel like stepping back in time. Just how old school many of these attractions are. So I absolutely recommend visiting this place. Honestly, if you have to choose one theme park to check out between Norway, Sweden, and Finland, this is probably the park I would recommend. I think it has a great balance of roller coasters as well as atmosphere. I think Linnanmäki has so much to do. They made such good use of space. Everything is like pretty good quality. So if you get the chance to visit, I think you'll absolutely have a blast. So let me know down in the comments below if you've had the chance to visit Linnanmäki in Helsinki, Finland. What do you think of it? If you agree with the points that I brought up. If you think there's anything I missed, be sure to let me know. And of course, stay tuned for more park reviews here at Coaster Studios, and I'll see you next time.